Vladimir Putin has escalated the war with Ukraine by launching missiles into Kyiv, and Joe Biden is powerless to stop it. We got this report earlier. Look at this. Just in, Russian President Vladimir Putin is open to discussing a ceasefire with Ukraine if negotiations are led by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. So, President Donald Trump is the only person that can negotiate with Vladimir Putin per Putin. Vladimir Putin knows Joe Biden's out the door. He knows Joe Biden's not in charge anyway. He knows Joe Biden was the weak-minded and lily-livered and spineless president that really inspired him to go into Ukraine. I mean, when President Trump was president the first time around, there was no invasion into Ukraine. There was no, let's go into Ukraine, take back. No, it wasn't until the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. It wasn't until Joe Biden came in and Joe Biden realized, oh, wait, look what's happening. I don't have any control over anything. So Vladimir Putin said, we're going to go in and we're going to take back what's rightfully ours. Now that President Donald Trump has been reelected and is coming back to power, Vladimir Putin is like, look, I'll sit down, but I'm not sitting down with Sleepy Joe. I'm only going to sit down with President Donald Trump. In the meantime, he's escalating the war in Ukraine, and he's doing it with intercontinental ballistic missiles. Look at that. That is that's reported to be an ICBM. Here's another angle of it. Look at that, shooting down near Kyiv. That's reportedly an intercontinental ballistic missile that was shot into Kyiv or into the Ukraine by Russia, by Vladimir Putin. And this is an escalation. It's not a nuclear warhead. I mean, you can tell by the explosion there, but it is a pretty wild sight to see when you look at what's happening and how Vladimir Putin, and again, this is just months before the inauguration. There it is. Look at that. I mean, that is a sign. That's the scene right out of a war movie. And that's what's been going on in Kyiv. And the reason that Vladimir Putin is escalating this is because he knows that President Trump's going to come in. He knows there will be an end to this war. He knows that this will eventually be all in the past, that the peace plan that President Trump has put forward, that he has promised, the end to these never-ending wars is at foot. And as a result, Vladimir Putin's, I guess, trying to make as much headway or leeway as he possibly can. He's trying to make as big a grab as he possibly can do before the end of this whole conflict. So that's something that we'll be following along. But the fact that he says, look, I'll only talk to President Trump shows two things. Number one, he realizes just how lame a lame duck President Joe Biden is, and that President Trump is the stronger leader and the only leader that would be able to initiate and to figure out a way to end this conflict that's been going on for now over 1,000 days. It's also not in Joe Biden and his Democrat cohort's best interest to end the war, because that's how they make all their money. They make all their money with all of these war stocks and these military, industrial complexes. And every time a bomb drops or every time we send more money to Ukraine, a bunch of that money pretty much ends up back in their pocket. A bunch of that money ends up back in their coffers for their next campaign. So it is detrimental to Joe Biden's survival, to the Democrat Party's survival, to end the war in Ukraine. And that's another reason why Vladimir Putin's not going to sit down with Joe Biden, because he knows Joe Biden's not interested at all in ending the war in Ukraine. That's why, I mean, think about this. You've got the end of one presidency and the beginning of another. And as we get closer and closer to the end of that presidency, the president himself is issuing regulations, or is approving, rather, the use of stronger military force by Ukraine. And the Russian president is retaliating with stronger military force by Russia, and threats of bombing U.S. bases in Poland. I mean, the escalation that Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin are involved with these last couple of days, it's insane. And I talked about this before. I'm not gonna pat myself on the back. All right, I might a little bit, but I said after the election, from election day to January 20th to inauguration day, will be the most dangerous days in the United States of America. They will be when our lives are most at danger, because Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and the rest of these tyrants all over the world know that their days are numbered. They know that the United States is coming back. Our military preparedness is coming back. Our military dominance is coming back. Our economic dominance is coming back. They know that all of a sudden, when Donald Trump takes control, everything's going to change, and they won't be the big dogs in the playground anymore. They won't be able to bully people like Taiwan and Ukraine and South Korea and everyone else. They won't be able to go into Israel and paraglide in and start shooting people and kidnapping them and taking them into the Hamas tunnels in the Gaza Strip. They're not going to be able to do any of that anymore when President Trump comes back. So they're on a clock. And they're not running out the clock. They're not just waiting patiently. They're going to do as much damage and try to push their agendas as far as they possibly can until Donald Trump puts a stop to it. That's one thing. On the domestic side, I told you this before. I said, look, when Donald Trump gets reelected, the immigrants are going to know that they're on notice. And they are going to do whatever they can to get their butts into the United States before President Trump puts his hand on that Bible and swears the oath of office and shuts down the border and puts Tom Homan in charge of the most massive deportation effort in American history. And wouldn't you know it, I was right about that too, because as we speak, a caravan of over 1,500 people is making its way up through Mexico to the United States, where they plan to bum rush the border. Evidently they have a social media manager too, because they've been taking videos and posting them online. Here it is. Look at all these people. These people they're like, look, we've got till January 20th, because that's when everything stops. And they know Joe Biden's not fixing anything now. They know Joe Biden's going to let it happen. They're looking at this going, all right, fine. You know what? That's just 1,500 more people that Donald Trump's going to have to deport when he finally takes office. No skin off my back. I'm done. So these people are going to be walking, and that's just the first caravan. I imagine there are more and more people on the way. I imagine there are more and more people that are planning right now their trips because they realize the door is about to slam shut. It's going to come. The gate is going to close, and they want to be on this side of it when it does. Then they'll take their chances with ICE and Tom Homan and the deportation efforts, and they'll see if they can, hide out long enough to be able to stay here. I imagine Donald Trump's answer will be no. You won't be able to do that. So it's a dangerous time, probably the most dangerous time in our history, since World War II, because we have a changing of the guard. We have the lamest of lame duck presidents who's really not even in charge, and the rest of the world is dominated by strong, tyrannical dictators who are doing whatever they can, who are working diligently right now to try to push their agenda and try to grab as much power as they possibly can before President Trump comes in and ends it all. And the fact that Vladimir Putin has shut Joe Biden out just proves that. He goes, I won't talk to Biden. I'll only talk to Trump. In the meantime, I'm going to fire some rockets into Kyiv. That's exactly the state of the world right now. That's the state of our foreign policy. And our domestic policy is just as bad because we have migrants charging toward the border before Christmas because they know this is their very last chance for the next 4 years to break through our border and illegally cross into the United States of America. So that's what we got going on that front. Let's talk a little bit about Matt Gaetz, though, because Matt Gaetz had a good day yesterday. Matt Gaetz, President Donald Trump, the entire agenda, everybody who voted for President Trump yesterday had a good day yesterday. So if you voted for President Trump, if you voted for conservatives, if you live in the Panhandle and you voted for Matt Gaetz, well, he resigned. So I'm sure he thanks you for your vote, but he's no longer a congressman, so it doesn't matter. But everybody had a great day yesterday because Matt Gaetz went to Capitol Hill and he met with a bunch of Congress people. He met with a bunch of senators, and the meetings went really well. Not only that, in the House of Representatives, the Ethics Committee met, and they were coming together, and they said that they were going to decide whether or not this ethics report, which shouldn't be released because Matt Gaetz is no longer a congressman. So if he resigns from Congress, Congress has no more authority over him. Doesn't matter. They want to release the report anyway. So they went in and they met and they decided there was not a consensus, and they decided they do not have the majority votes in the Ethics Committee to release the report. And they came out, there's a Chairman Young, and they came out and the media was hounding them and the media was dogging them. And they were like, what are you going to do now? Release the report. What happened? And you just walked away. Look at that circus. Now look at all those cameras. They were so eager. They were so hungry for that report. They thought they could taste it. They were like, well, there's 5 Republicans, there's 5 Democrats, and most of the Republicans hate Matt Gaetz because Matt Gaetz has tried to expose them for insider trading and other horrible ethical violations of their own. So clearly they're going to vote to release this thing. Well, guess what? They did not. Because maybe they realized that's not their place. Maybe they realized, well, maybe Speaker Johnson's right and it sets a horrible precedent. Because here's the thing about Congress. Congress and this ethics committee, they only have jurisdiction over themselves. And as soon as you leave Congress, whether you're voted out or expelled or you quit, then all of a sudden, they have no jurisdiction over you whatsoever. And this report should basically be buried. I did see a comment that they're going to also, fun fact, the report isn't even finished, which is another reason they didn't want to release it, because it's an unfinished report. And I saw a report, one of them said, we're going to finish the report and we're going to meet again in December. Hang on, let me see a finish ethics report, meet again. I read this and I laughed out loud. Oh, here it is. Here we go. Look at this. Here we go. Ethics committee won't release report after multiple rounds of votes. Here, I'll bring this up. The House Ethics voted Wednesday against releasing its report on Representative Matt Gaetz. Come on, what is this? After the committee voted against releasing the report on Wednesday, but to complete it and meet again in December. Okay, the committee voted against releasing the report on Wednesday, but they voted to complete the report and meet again in December. Gaetz resigned from the House last week after President-elect Donald Trump picked him as his nominee to be Attorney General. Let me explain why this won't happen, okay? First of all, they no longer have jurisdiction over Matt Gaetz. And I would imagine that if their constituents, I would imagine that if the rest of Congress, I would imagine that the voters, if anybody found out that they were still working on an ethics investigation for somebody who is not even a member of Congress and no longer falls under their jurisdiction, I would have to think a lot of people would be appalled by that, because that seems like a ridiculous waste of time and resources. That's number one. Number two is they say they're going to finish this report and meet again in December. Congress does diddly squat in December. I don't know if you know about this, but December is not a big month. Yeah, they're in session. Sure, they're doing their thing, but they're racing to get other stuff done. They're going to be racing to, they're already trying to push through Biden's, last judicial appointments in the Senate. There's no way that Congress is going to meet again, or that these Congress people are going to take the time, waste their effort to meet again to finish a report on a guy who's not even a congressman anymore, especially since it's out of their purview. At this moment, Matt Gaetz is no longer a congressman. He is an appointed cabinet member, the Attorney General appointment by President Donald Trump. He's nominated for that position, and that's the position that these people should be focused on. And the act of investigating any ethical dilemmas or any ethical questions, the act of investigating and vetting Matt Gaetz is no longer under the umbrella of the House Ethics Committee. It's now up to the Senate. So the House Ethics Committee should be like, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. We're not going to release our report. We're not going to waste any more time on this report. We're not going to meet again in December because that's just stupid. And we're going to let the Senate do what the Constitution says the Senate should do, and look at these appointments and vet these appointments and question these appointments and then approve or disapprove these appointments. As soon as Matt Gaetz tendered his resignation as a congressman, all the power passed to the Senate. Yet these weirdos in the ethics committee, half of whom should probably be investigated by the ethics committee, but that's a story for another day, are hell bent on continuing this report. The harassment, by the way, that Matt Gaetz has been getting in the Senate is waning. And I think that this visit he made yesterday, because he went yesterday with Marco Rubio, and he went with J.D. Vance, who's been very helpful in guiding Matt Gaetz and arranging these meetings and helping with the process of getting him appointed. J.D. Vance and Matt Gaetz went to Capitol Hill, and they met with a bunch of senators, and the meetings went really well. In fact, Matt Gaetz said, I'm really confident. I came away from these meetings feeling great. And a lot of senators have jumped on board. For example, Josh Hawley from Missouri is all for getting Matt Gaetz in the DOJ.
know, I've read about my colleagues, some of them here in the Senate, who say we've got deep concerns. Of course, I'm reading all of the slander and garbage in the press about Gates and others, and this is really approaching Kavanaugh proportions. They're trying to do to him what they did to Kavanaugh. And the answer to that is let the guy speak. He deserves to be able to address this himself. He deserves to be able to lay out his vision and the president's vision for the DOJ. And I look forward to that. And listen, as I said to President Trump, I'm going to help in whatever way I can to get the president the cabinet that he wants and deserves.
Look at that. Kavanaugh, that's a good way to put it. This is almost to Kavanaugh proportions. You remember Brett Kavanaugh and the accusations against him, which were totally unfounded. The witnesses they brought against him were ridiculous. He had the calendar. There was the whole back and forth between beer and I like beer. And then he had that whole, dust up with Kamala Harris, who, remember when she was a senator on the Judiciary? That's crazy. That was so long ago. But he's saying, look, this is what we're getting to. And I would imagine that, yes, while this confirmation process may be similar to what happened with Brett Kavanaugh, while this confirmation process of Matt Gaetz may resemble or mirror the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation, there is one big difference: that Matt Gaetz is not Brett Kavanaugh, and Brett Kavanaugh is not Matt Gaetz. And no offense to Brett Kavanaugh, I'm sure he's a great jurist. I'm sure that he's a fantastic Supreme Court justice. Some of his decisions, I wish maybe went the other way, or I wish maybe he decided them faster, or whatever. Doesn't matter. Brett Kavanaugh is a good conservative on the Supreme Court. Yes, he's a little too buddy-buddy with John Roberts for my liking, but that's neither here nor there. If he wants to be friends with John Roberts, that's so be it. But Matt Gaetz is a master litigator, debater. As Jim Jordan said yesterday, this guy can, if you have to appear in a committee that Matt Gaetz is on, you might as well just give up. You might as well just call it quits. Matt Gaetz is the guy that introduced the Hunter Biden, the hard drive, into the House of Representatives. He's the one that went up against, successfully, by the way, Speaker of the House, what's his name? I even forget now. McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy. This is a guy who tears witnesses to shreds. Christopher Wray from the FBI. He is fearless. He's well-spoken. He's intelligent. He knows the law inside and out. He can trap you in your own words. There's not a single person that I can think of in the Senate, on the Judiciary Committee, or I don't think of anyone. There's nobody I can think of in the Senate who could match wits with Matt Gaetz. And they know that. And Marsha Blackburn said that. She said, look, Matt Gaetz, he's ready, willing, and able to answer these questions.
When I met with Matt Gaetz and Vice President-elect Vance today, I asked Matt what his expectation was, and he wants to be able to have a hearing. He says he will answer any question that anyone asks him, and we have to keep in mind, President Trump has a mandate from the American people, and he has pushed forward with nominees for these positions that will help him to carry out that mandate. I'm going to support each of these nominees. And Matt wants to have a hearing, and he wants the opportunity to answer all of those questions. And I will add, I asked him what he would do if he were to be confirmed as Attorney General for the United States, and he was very specific. Dealing with the weaponization of the DOJ is at the top of the list. Dealing with the illegal immigration and the border security issues. Dealing with fentanyl. All of these are items on his to-do list.
All right, so look at that. So dealing with weaponization in government, that's a good one. Illegal immigration, that's a good one. Fentanyl, check. Nowhere on this list did she say, I asked Matt Gaetz, what are you going to do when you get into the DOJ? Nowhere did he say, I'm going to throw those Biden sons of bitches behind bars. He didn't do anything. He's like, I'm going to go after all them sons of a guns. Those Clintons, they've seen they're not going to see the light of day for years. He didn't say any of that. He said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to root out the corruption, and then we're going to end the lawfare in the DOJ. And then we're going to make sure that illegal immigration is under control, and we're going to work with Tom Homan, and we're going to work with Kristi Noem, and we're going to make sure that the border is closed and people are deported, and that nobody has to go through what Laken Riley's friends and family have been going through. And yes, they found the guy was a Barra. They found him guilty, but they're putting him in prison for the rest of his life. That's not justice for Laken Riley. I mean, it's sort of justice for Laken Riley, but not the justice a lot of people wanted. And let's go back to the beginning. Shouldn't have been here in the first place. Never should have been here in the first place. So that's another reason why Matt Gaetz needs to be the attorney general, because he's going to work not just to root out corruption and criminality in our Justice Department and in the government, root out corruption and criminality with illegal immigration and these people that shouldn't be here whatsoever, but he's also going to make sure that the fentanyl and the drug crisis is all under control. And Marsha Blackburn says he's ready to answer questions. He wants to. No kidding, man. The best thing, the only thing Matt Gaetz does better than ask questions is answer them. And trust me, because I have interviewed Matt Gaetz several times on our show, and I've been interviewed by Matt Gaetz on his show. The guy can ask questions. The guy can answer them. He can pull facts right off the top of his head. He can counter arguments, and he's not going to go into that Senate committee meeting room for his confirmation hearing. He's not going to go in there unprepared. In fact, he's going to go in there ready to make their heads spin. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if, especially after these meetings yesterday, he came out with a majority of senators on his side. Eric Schmidt is on his side.
But I'm pretty confident that Matt Gaetz is going to get through. I think all the president's nominees are going to get through.
You have said in the past that you feel that the FBI and DOJ are both ripe for reform. If we ask you to put back on your AG hat for a moment, which in particular aspects of them both would you reform?
Well, I think it's been politicized to a degree we've never seen before. This DOJ has gone after Catholics. It's gone after parents who showed up to school board meetings under the auspices of the Patriot Act. It's engaged in lawfare to put its chief political rival in jail for the rest of his life. This is Banana Republic kind of stuff. So I think DOJ, we got to get back to a place where it's respected and also get back to fighting violent crime.
All right, so there you go. You got both senators from Missouri. You got Hawley, you got Schmidt, Missouri. Check it off the list. I know for a fact that you got Rick Scott and Marco Rubio. Take Florida. Check that off the list. Marsha Blackburn, she just gave him half of Tennessee, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get the other half as well. It appears that Matt Gaetz is getting closer and closer. The fact that this ethics committee did not release the report, the fact that senators are coming out, not just senators too, all his old colleagues, not all of them, but a lot of them. Ronnie Jackson came out in support of Matt Gaetz and said Matt Gaetz is going to be amazing.
Well, I think the cabinet looks really good right now. I know there's a lot of controversy about some of the picks, but look, what he's doing, Maria, is he's putting people in place that have a record of doing what they say they're going to do, being aggressive, working for the American people, pushing back on the government bureaucracy. This is what we need right now. President Trump has an absolute mandate to turn this country around, to salvage what's left of this country after the Biden administration and to make this country great. And he will do it, but he's only going to be able to do it if he has the right people in the jobs, the people that are not afraid to take risk, and the people that, that basically come in with a little bit of an axe to grind. And that's what I'm excited to see. All these people coming in, Tom Homan and Matt Gaetz and, and everybody else that, that's out there that's being talked about, they have an agenda, and that agenda is for the American people.
Keep in mind, the people that are telling you that Matt Gaetz is terrible and Matt Gaetz goes to parties and Matt Gaetz does horrible things with underage women, the same people that are gasping when Matt Gaetz's name was mentioned as Attorney General, the same people that are writing these articles and the same people that are on television talking about how inappropriate it would be and what a character flawed individual this is and how Donald Trump can't be serious and he's got to walk it back. These are the same people that told you the same stuff about President Donald Trump. These are the same people that said President Donald Trump went into a dressing room with E. Jean Carroll and did unspeakable things to her. Meanwhile, President Trump said, I don't even know the woman. All I know is that her cat is named Vagina and she's kind of a lunatic. And then, of course, she sued him again for saying, you're kind of a lunatic. I'm paraphrasing here, but you know the thing. They said that he paid these hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. They said that he did these terrible things with this woman and that woman. They said that he was a criminal. They said that he undervalued his properties so that he could cheat the tax system and pocket some cash and defraud banks and defraud investors. These are the same exact people. And overwhelmingly, Americans said, you know what? We don't care about any of that. We care about the economy. We care about illegal immigration. We care about crime. We care about getting blown up by Vladimir Putin and his atomic weapons because we're funneling all this money to Ukraine and allowing Ukraine to shoot weapons into Moscow. That's what we care about. As American citizens, we care about staying alive, securing our borders, getting these criminals out of our country, and making sure that we can afford stuff like gas and groceries. And, oh, you know what? Christmas is coming. Wouldn't it be nice if we could afford some Christmas presents? Wouldn't it be nice if our property values went up instead of down? Wouldn't it be nice if we looked into our bank accounts every day and there was more money and it was able to buy us more stuff? That's what we want. And the same is true of Matt Gaetz. The same is true of Pete Hegseth. The same people that are telling you these are bad people, these are bad picks, are the same people that told you Donald Trump was a bad person and a bad pick. And America picked him anyway, and they picked him by a record margin. Which brings me to Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, who also said Donald Trump was a bad person. Donald Trump was a bad pick. Donald Trump shouldn't be president. Well, now she's going on her radio show, which, did anyone know Nikki Haley had a radio show? I didn't know Nikki. Swear to God. I didn't. After Nikki Haley finally got out of the race, after Nikki Haley finally ceded the position of presidential nominee for the Republican Party to President Trump, after all that happened, I totally forgot Nikki Haley existed. Well, apparently she has a radio show, which just goes to prove my point about radio, folks. It's been on a downward trajectory since, well, they threw me out of the studio. You've got everybody who's now on the radio seems to be one of these anti-Trump, never Trump, moderate warmongering apologists for the Democrat Party. These are people who are not conservative. They're not MAGA. They're not America First. These are people who still think that, oh, it's my grandpa's Republican Party. It's the days of Dick Cheney and George W. It's not anymore. There's no sitting back and taking a beating from the media and the press. Now we are Catriots. We are liberty-loving, freedom-defending Catriots. We've got backbone, we've got consciences, and we are combative. We are conscientious, combative conservatives, and it's what this country needs, and it's what this country wants, and quite frankly, it's what this country is going to get, whether they like it or not. And Nikki Haley is on the radio, and she's out there bad-mouthing, wouldn't you know it, President Trump and his cabinet picks, most specifically Tulsi Gabbard.
After Russia invaded Ukraine, Tulsi Gabbard literally blamed NATO. Our Western alliance that's responsible for countering Russia, she blamed NATO for the attack on Ukraine. And the Russians and the Chinese echoed her talking points and her interviews on Russian and Chinese television. Tulsi Gabbard pushed for dropping charges against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange and pardoning National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden, both whom were accused of leaking highly sensitive U.S. secrets that put Americans in danger. She called for Trump to end the destructive trade war with China.
I'm sorry, this radio show is way too boring for me to listen to any longer. I know a thing or two about political talk shows because I've hosted one for, well, upwards of a decade. But that one's that's a snooze fest. What was that, Sirius XM? That's the same company that has Megyn Kelly. How can you, it's amazing, man. How can you have Megyn Kelly and Nikki Haley on the same network? It just doesn't vibe with. I just don't get it. But there's Nikki Haley. She's bad-mouthing and she's bashing Tulsi Gabbard because Tulsi Gabbard is against NATO and blamed NATO for Vladimir Putin's role in invading Ukraine. Well, NATO is not the most incredible organization that a lot of people in Nikki Haley's, a lot of people who are globalists love NATO. I mean, look, if you're one of these one world order people, if you're one of these, I love a single global economy and global dominance, then you're all about NATO. If you love war, NATO's your kind of thing. Because NATO is basically everything that President Trump is against. And NATO is not this innocent, angelic thing. In fact, President Trump made another nomination yesterday. This was a good one. Let me pull it up here. Yesterday, November 20th, 2024, statement from President Donald J. Trump. I am pleased to announce that former acting Attorney General Matthew G. Whitaker from the great state of Iowa will be the United States ambassador to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, aka NATO. Matt is a strong warrior and loyal patriot who will ensure that United States interests are advanced and defended, who will ensure that the United States interests are advanced and defended, because the United States is one tiny little part of NATO. It's there's 30 countries just about in NATO. We are one of them. Do you know how much support and economic and financial support and weapons and military support the president of the United States and the United States in general gives to this coalition of 30 countries? About 95%. The money that NATO uses to protect themselves from the Eastern Bloc threat of Vladimir Putin and Russia and everyone else, 95% of that comes from us. And we're way the hell over here. We're not, they all border Russia. They've all got like Russians chilling at their border going, "Sup, comrade." And we're way over across the ocean, yet we're fitting the bill for all 29 of these other countries to stay safe and secure. And when President Trump went to them and said, you need to start paying up, they said, or what? We need to start paying up, or what are you going to do? You're going to not defend us? And Donald Trump said, that's exactly what's going to happen. And they said, what? And we got billions of dollars from Germany, from France, from Italy, from Spain, from all these countries. They started to pay for the protection that NATO afforded them. And now we got this guy. Now we've got Matt Whitaker. And Matt Whitaker's got one of the toughest jobs in the Trump administration. Not tough. Not tough. He's just going to go. But this is a guy who's going to lay down the law. Okay. And he can look at that jawline. This guy looks like, who's that cartoon, or not cartoon, that video game character, the Hitman? They always said that I looked like the Hitman. I was going to dress as him for, a Hitman video game. Everyone always said, Mark Kaye, you look like the guy from Hitman. You should dress like him for Halloween one year. And I was, yeah, here it is. Look at this. Where is it? Here it is. This is kind of what this, look at this. This is the Hitman. Okay. And this is Matt Whitaker. I mean, if his tie were a little redder, he'd literally be this guy from the Hitman. I know he has a name, but I forget what it is. But anyway, Matt Whitaker is going to go in there and he's going to lay down the law with these folks. And he's going to say, hi, NATO, pay up. Hi, NATO, no more free rides. You're going to be paying your fair share once again, or you're not going to get the protection that we afford you. That's what's going to happen. And no, Ukraine is not going to be a member country of NATO. Why? Well, because President Trump is going to, at the request of Vladimir Putin, sit down with Vladimir Putin, negotiate a ceasefire, and he's going to say, oh, one thing, we don't want Ukraine in NATO. And President Trump's going to be like, no problem. We don't want Ukraine in NATO anyway because we've given them enough money as it is. And everybody who knows, look, the more countries that join NATO, the more money we're going to have to funnel into the place. If anything, we should have the Department of Government Efficiency look at NATO and start paring it down. And I think in a way, that's what Matt Whitaker is going to be doing. Speaking of which, I have big news about the Department of Government Efficiency, which I'm going to get to here in just a minute. But look, everybody's coming on board with Matt Gaetz. Everybody's coming on board with President Trump's agenda. Everybody's coming on board with his cabinet. And it looks like these Senate confirmation hearings, while they may get tumultuous and they may get heated, I don't believe from the early reports and what I'm seeing in the way that Matt Gaetz and J.D. Vance and everyone else, the way that these people are handling themselves, I don't see that we'll have a need for recess appointments. In fact, I'm going to say it right now. I believe that all of these people get confirmed in the Senate without the need for recess appointments or any other extravagance of justice or any other really obscure laws that President Trump has to go back into history to find and use to his advantage to get the cabinet that he wants so he can make America great again. I'm going to say right now, between Matt Gaetz and J.D. Vance and all these other allies in the Senate and us, the American people who chose President Trump and gave him this mandate, I'm going to say, for all of those reasons, we are going to get the cabinet that we want, that we deserve, that we need, and the Senate's going to give it to us, and they are not going to force recess appointments. That is my thought process. That is my prediction right now, November 21st, 2024 at 12:41 p.m. Eastern time. Take it to the bank. All right. Hey, speaking of the cabinet, so Susan Wiles has made history by becoming the very first female to hold the position of chief of staff for the president of the United States. And as you can imagine, she's busy hiring people and fighting back Democrats and planning for the multitude of executive orders I'm sure we're going to get on day one of the new Trump administration. But we have a surrogate. Her daughter, Kaye Wiles, who's also involved in politics, is a partner at Continental Strategy and works for former Ambassador Trujillo. We'll get into all of that in just a minute. But Katie, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I try to stay on the other side of this, but You're special.
Yeah. Oh, shucks. I hounded her on Twitter and I was like, hey, look, we got to talk about your mom. And she was like, fine. Oh, you got clearance though, right? That was a big thing because your mom became chief of staff. And when I asked you for an interview, you were like, it's got to go through the proper channels. Did we get vetted by the FBI or something? What happened?
I wouldn't know even if they did.
That's
so let me start there. But no, it was, I checked with my folks and with mom and we're good to go.
Oh,
excited to be here.
That's so nice. Well, we're excited to have you. Well, let's talk about you first because you too, you come from this it's all these strong political women in your family. Your mother, of course, who worked for Rick Scott, Ron DeSantis, President Trump now for several years, got his campaign to, I mean, really one of the most successful political campaigns we've seen. But you and your sister also are in politics. What is it you're doing?
So I am currently a partner at Continental Strategy. So we have offices throughout the state of Florida, Miami, Tallahassee, and Jacksonville, as well as a large presence in DC. And we recently opened our first international office in Buenos Aires. And so we have a partner down there doing some of our international work as well. So a little lobbying, little business development, and my first love is comms. So I still do a little bit of that too.
That's what the cool kids call communications.
Yeah.
Comms.
Yeah. And if there's not a crisis, then it's just regular comms.
Yeah, that's right. Now, you worked actually for our former mayor, Lenny Curry, which here in Jacksonville, and you were the communications director there for a while.
Yeah, and he's has remained a dear friend of both mine and my mother's. So sometimes, frankly, she'll text him back before she texts me. So they're still extremely close, and I've stayed sort of with that City Hall crew after his administration ended, and so it's been really fun to sort of still get to interact with the folks that I worked with there. Brian Hughes, obviously, who went on the campaign, and then Mayor Curry as well. And
now you work for a company that has offices in Jacksonville, Miami, Buenos Aires. I mean, that sounds like that's a pretty good
Tallahassee
job.
and DC. So it's been really fun.
DC's DC, but that's amazing. You get to fly to all the best beaches in the world. All right,
exactly.
So recently, your mother became, I mean, arguably, I would argue, the most powerful woman in the world as chief of staff to Donald Trump. I mean, that's it. She runs the White House. She's his right-hand man. She's going to be in the Situation Room. She's going to be negotiating with the likes of Vladimir Putin and Zelensky and Xi Jinping. Is this something that you ever expected, or did it? I mean, how does it feel being the daughter of the most powerful political woman that there is?
It's ridiculously cool. And I can't even put into words how proud I am of her. And one thing I think that's really important that people don't talk about, and maybe it's just a cool Trivial Pursuit question, but yes, she was the first female chief of staff in the White House, but she was the first female chief of staff for the city of Jacksonville.
Ooh.
So home has always been home to us, and this city is extremely important to us. And so we still live here, and I've sort of watched her grow from municipal government into the specific campaigns, but then still keep these relationships that sort of raised us.
Yeah.
And so it's been really, really cool to see. So I'm super proud of her.
And talk about
just when I think I couldn't get any prouder, it's crazy. It's
talk
ridiculous.
about, I mean, grounded. You said that she's hosting Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah. So I have an 8-year-old son, and he calls her Susu because we can't just be grandma.
Yeah, of course.
So our Susu, which has sort of become a thing, a lot of people call her Susu now. But I feel like one of the things I admire about her most, especially now that I'm a mother, and knowing and actually holding the same position she held during the Delaney and Payton administration, I held for Mayor Curry. So real full circle moment here. But being able to really appreciate sort of what keeps her level and what keeps her grounded. And I know that there's so many articles out there talking about her baking pound cakes and her being the Susu and her having a grandson, but it truly is. I think one of the things that makes her the most special is still being able to come home and be mom. Yeah, be a friend. The folks that join us on Thanksgiving have been her friends going on 40 years. My best friend, her mom still joins us. So we're talking long-term friends that come home, support her. Yeah. It's fun, it's judgment-free, and it's a time to sort of reconnect.
Are there topics that are just 100% off limits at Thanksgiving? Like, can you talk about, anything with the transition? Does she let you in on maybe some of the vetting process or some of the people that even we don't know about that are being considered for various roles?
No, we talk about, I cook a turkey, she cooks a turkey. And then we talk about whose turkey is better.
Really? You have like
And
a
then we eat
turkey
pound cake.
cook-off. And then what?
And then we eat pound cake.
And then you eat pound cake. So that's it. No pumpkin pie at the Wiles household.
There's lots of pie, there's lots of sides, but there's a little friendly competition about whose turkey is better. And you know, the folks that we choose to include on Thanksgiving are it's a judgment-free zone.
Yeah.
So while they're informed and I think familiar to Jacksonville and to the Ponte Vedra area, it's a very low key, very fun. Bring your kids, bring your appetite, and we have a good time.
I bet. It sounds amazing. One of the most incredible things, and you know, I've been following politics for a long time, a lot of presidential elections, as you have as well, is when your mother was chosen, she was the first cabinet position chosen, which is not odd. You want the chief of staff in place, right? Because then they're going to help with hiring. They're going to make sure everyone knows who to report to. But the most amazing thing was when, I think it was like a Thursday or a Friday, and they announced Susan Wiles, chief of staff, first female in history. There was, and it may be the only cabinet position President Trump has ever chosen that had this effect. There was no pushback. There was no negativity. There was no debate. It was all just a collective nod of approval from the left, the right, and the media. And I was just like, what is going on here?
Yeah. It's one, it was super cool to see.
Yeah.
But two, you know, even sort of throughout this campaign and previous campaigns, one of the things that even when I talk to other reporters, they'll say, I've never met anybody who is just universally respected.
Exactly right.
And so it's been one, it's something that I strive for and I try to emulate, but the reality is she is fair. She is disciplined. She is a perfect sort of case study in sort of kindness and stoicism at the same time. You respect her as a leader and you want to do well for her. So I've worked for a lot of people, but I find it's very few people that you want to do well for yourself. Obviously, you want to take care of your family, but there is a real sort of group of folks that would follow her to the ends of the earth. Obviously, I'm included in that, but it's really special to watch. And it's the way she sort of led Caroline and I as we were growing up and has been really an incredible influence on my son as well. And it's very much reminiscent of my grandmother, Catherine, my namesake, but she was, you knew when you were in trouble, but man, she was the most gentle soul. And so believe it or not, even if the president wants to refer to her as the Ice Maiden, I get it.
Right.
But she's the most gentle, kind woman I know.
Yeah. The Ice Maiden, when he brought her up on stage and she begrudgingly made her way to the microphone and he called her the Ice Maiden. I mean, that was something that's really out of character. She's not a spotlight hog like a lot of people in politics tend to be, correct?
Correct. Always be the kingmaker, never the king.
That's right. That's fantastic. Well, listen, now that you have, and you've had this role model your whole life and you've followed in her footsteps, you now, of course, working for a former ambassador and being involved in politics, you have to be chief of staff for J.D. Vance or something in 2028? How does that, what's your...
Certainly not. No.
Oh, come on.
The last campaign I worked was John McCain. So it's been a while. I enjoy being campaign adjacent, and I love being a mom. So there are no campaigns in my future.
All right, so you're content with what you do as a lobbyist, right? Continental strategy partner.
I'm a policy nerd at my core, so this gives me what I need.
You know, a lot that we need those people. So, well, listen, congratulations to you. Congratulations to your mom. I'm excited. Now, what's the difference between the two turkeys? Do you have like because usually the turkey recipe gets handed down.
Yes.
Is it?
She brines.
Oh, she brines. Oh, yeah. I don't have the patience for brining either. I'm not.
I am a creature of habit, and I know what my turkey needs to look like. I know what it needs to taste like. Yeah. She's a briner. I'm not. So,
do you feel that now that she's chief of staff, people will suck up to her and her turkey on Thanksgiving if you ask them which turkey was better? Like, do you feel that there's an unfair advantage at this point?
That's the best part about the people we have Thanksgiving with.
They'll be honest.
They're going to give it to us straight.
I'm sorry, Susan. You may be chief of staff, but Katie's turkey was far superior.
But here's the deal: I can't bake, so let's just call it what it is: pound cake turkey. Winner.
We all have our skills. Kaye Wiles, listen, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's appreciated.
All right, so we have some breaking news that we need to break in for. Disappointing is one word for it. I'll be honest with the news coming out yesterday about these meetings, a little shocking as well. But if you have not yet heard, Matt Gaetz, who we just talked about at length, has withdrawn his name from consideration. Again, after the meetings he had yesterday, after these senators came out, I'm a little disappointed with the way the swamp still works. Matt Gaetz wrote on X, I had excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and the incredible support of so many. While the momentum was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. There is no time to waste on a needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I'll be withdrawing my name from consideration to serve as Attorney General. Trump's DOJ must be in place and ready on day one. I remain fully committed to see that Donald J. Trump is the most successful president in history. I will forever be honored that President Trump nominated me to lead the Department of Justice, and I'm certain he will save America. Again, this is devastating for a couple of reasons. We'll get into that here in just a minute. NBC News reporting, Matt Gaetz, former representative Matt Gaetz, Republican Florida, on Thursday, that was today, announced that he would withdraw himself from consideration to be President-elect Donald Trump's Attorney General. I had excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback. That's what we just read. Gaetz, who Trump named last week as his pick for AG, faced significant headwinds in the confirmation process. Trump's selection of Gaetz brought fresh scrutiny to previous allegations against the former congressman, who faced an investigation by the Justice Department that involved allegations of sex trafficking with a minor, yada, yada, yada. You know the thing. So it appears that Susie Wiles, and we just talked to Katie, it appears that Susie Wiles and the transition team is going to have to go back to work as Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his name from consideration. And I'll be honest with you, I'm disappointed. I'm sure a lot of people are disappointed. I'm sure all these senators yesterday who spoke about how talented Matt Gaetz was and how he was the right man for the job and went to bat for him, I'm sure they are all disappointed as well. But it appears that Matt Gaetz feels and believes that he's too much of a distraction and that his nomination would not go through without any problem. Look, it's bad for a couple of reasons, because this is, whether you like it or not, a win for the swamp. It's a win for the other side. I don't know if it was, I don't know what it was, but something happened and Matt Gaetz changed his mind. Some senator threatened him or told him it's never going to happen. And he and Team Trump, and I know that, look, these decisions are not just made by one individual. Matt Gaetz, J.D. Vance, they came into the Senate together. They left together. They probably had conversations together. They talked to the transition team. They talked to other people. They talked to the party. And it appears that they came to the conclusion that it was best that he withdraw his name. I did hear rumors already that, he could be the senator from Florida. I don't know that that's going to happen, as he was pretty harsh on Ron DeSantis when Ron DeSantis was running for president. Matt Gaetz put his entire career basically on the line, not just for President Trump, but for his Make America Great Again agenda. And what Matt Gaetz did was he, as a congressman, first of all, he fought harder than anyone as a congressman to make sure that the swamp was not in control of Washington, D.C. You only have to go so far as to again, see what he did with Kevin McCarthy, to attack the senator or the other Congress people like John Rutherford, who I know is probably dancing a jig and popping bottles as we speak, and all the other members of the ethics committee. They've now basically done what so many of his enemies in Washington have done and made him, powerless. He's no longer a congressman. He already submitted his resignation. He's not a senator, nor do I believe that Ron DeSantis would appoint him. I think Ron DeSantis has he has stauncher allies, I think, that he'd be looking toward for that Senate seat. And then on top of all that, he's not going to be the attorney general or have any place, it seems, in President Trump's cabinet. The only thing that could potentially happen at this point is that President Trump appoints him to some position that is not privy to or is not, contingent on Senate confirmation. If there were some position, like an advisor, like some kind of, like a deputy chief of staff, something like that. I mean, yes, there are roles he could still take on in the government there are roles he could still take on in the government that would allow him and help him to become what I guess you would say the crime fighter that we all thought he was going to be, and to help drain the swamp. But, you know, it's not going to be as attorney general. Again, to me, that's bad news because it means that they won. And President Trump, I guess President Trump has limited political capital. Maybe we thought more. Maybe something else popped up. Maybe there's something in these legal documents. Who knows? But whatever it is, there's something that caused Matt Gaetz to withdraw his name. And now we'll have a new attorney general pick. I'm not sure who it's going to be. It may be that President Trump elevates, what's his name? Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche was already chosen by President Trump. Todd Blanche was President Trump's attorney. Here we go. Oh, I have it right here. President-elect Donald Trump said Thursday he will nominate Todd Blanche, one of his criminal defense lawyers, to be Deputy Attorney General. Todd is an excellent attorney who will be a crucial leader in the Justice Department, fixing what has been a broken system of justice for far too long. The statement noted that Blanche has experience working for the Justice Department, something former Representative Matt Gaetz does not have. Todd prosecuted gangs and other federal crimes as a chief in the Southern District of New York, United States Attorney's Office, clerked for 2 federal judges, and graduated with honors from law school while working full-time at the SCNY. Blanche was Trump's lead lawyer when he stood trial on charge of falsifying business records related to hush money, yada, yada, yada. So it may be that he just says, all right, we're going to elevate Todd Blanche and we're going to nominate him to be the attorney general. Maybe that's the choice that they think goes through, you know, faster or with less friction from the left and from the media and from everybody else in the swamp who is anti-Gaetz. And again, that's a large contingent of people. I hope, though, here's the thing, because I'm all about, you know, and we talked a little bit about this just earlier today, about sticking it to the man, about going up against the swamp and winning. And President Trump is as well. But there apparently, like I said, there are things going on behind the scenes. There are people in his orbit that realize this is maybe not worth the battle, or there are other battles to fight. It is, I'll be honest with you, a little disheartening to know that he's not going to be in Congress anymore. It's disheartening to know that he's not going to be in the Justice Department. And I'm not sure what he's going to do. We're going to all have to find out together. But anyway, it's something that again is not, we didn't see it coming. But again, that's what happens when you have a president as strong as Donald Trump is, and who is putting together a group of fighters, really fighters, to drain the swamp and make sure that the travesties and the lawfare and the corruption is rooted out for good. There's a lot, like we've talked about it before. Mitch McConnell, John Thune, John Cornyn, all of these people have been in Washington, D.C., and they've got their little boys club, and they believe that they run the party. You know, Mitch McConnell is still a senator. He hasn't gone anywhere. He helped John Thune get elected. He and John Cornyn have been BFFs forever. They're not just relinquishing their power because President Trump's back. They're going to fight tooth and nail against it. And it appears that there is a large contingent of Washington elitists and bureaucrats who are not going to give in to the American people and the American people's desires and wants. And they're going to fight tooth and nail. So I'm hoping, once again, that President Trump and his team, who we respect, like I said, we just talked about Susan Wiles. We know Susan Wiles is a smart lady. We know that she's the ice maiden. We know that she's cutthroat. We know that she makes the right decisions. We know that she has Donald Trump's agenda and his best intentions, and those, you know, and the country. Those are first and foremost on her mind. And so these are all decisions that have to be made. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, I don't know how quickly we will get any kind of information about who's going to be next. President Trump 17 minutes ago posted on Truth Social, "I greatly appreciate the recent efforts of Matt Gaetz in seeking approval to be Attorney General. He was doing very well, but at the same time did not want to be a distraction for the administration, for which he has much respect. Matt has a wonderful future, and I look forward to watching all of the great things he will do." That was President Trump's post on Truth Social. So we will see where we go from here. We'll check X real quick, although I don't imagine there would be anything different on X. Let me just pull it up real quick. Real Donald. No, I want real, not rel. And then we'll check one more place too to see what Donald Trump has said. It's basically, no, he hasn't posted there yet. And then Caroline Leavitt, the national spokesperson for the campaign and now press secretary, has not posted anything. Yeah, here it is. Truth from, she just reposted President Trump's, she just reposted President Trump's post from earlier. Now, Bill Haggerty from Tennessee, he also posted here. She just retweeted this 2 hours ago about Pete Hegseth, who was also under scrutiny for some of the things in his past. But it looks like 2 hours ago, they're still talking about Pete Hegseth. So maybe he'll be fine. I don't know. Look, again, this is how this process goes. I do feel confident, however, though, that with every cloud, there's a silver lining. And the one silver lining that we have to realize here is that there is clearly a contingent of Washington, D.C. that is deplorable, that is disgusting, that is gross, that is hell-bent on doing whatever it takes to bolster their own power, their own philosophies, their own agenda, to make themselves wealthier, richer, more powerful. They don't care about the voters. They don't care about the electorate. They don't care about the people that put them there. These are the same people that will count ballots illegally, even though the Supreme Court has told them not to. These are the same people that will send the FBI to go investigate and rummage through the underwear drawer of the wife of one of their largest political adversaries. These are the same people that will spy on a political campaign using false pretenses like FISA reports and, a Steele dossier that was 100% fiction. These are people that will do the most dastardly things you can think of. They will go against their pledges to this country. They will violate their oaths of office, and they will weaponize the government. They will take money from China, funnel it through various different companies. They will suppress evidence. They will use their power to censor social media outlets and regular media outlets. They will strong arm folks in charge of Silicon Valley titans. They will do whatever they have to do to remain in power and to beat back any outsider and outlier like President Donald Trump, who comes in and tries to change things for the better. That's what they are going to do. And we now see there is still a major threat from that contingent. It's not just the Democrats. That's not all we're fighting. It's the Democrats, it's the rhinos, it's the deep state. It's us against all of them. This is a multi-front battle. This is a multi-front. It's never just been about the two-party system. This has been us against the world. And we're starting to see once again that as we get closer and closer to winning the battle, they are getting uglier and uglier. And these are the same dirty tricks that they've always used. These are the same things that they've always been up to. It's how they chased Herman Cain out of the presidential race. When Herman Cain was set to become a black Republican president, when he started moving up the polls, when Herman Cain looked like he had a real shot at something amazing, they destroyed his entire future the way they're doing to a lot of other people. This is something that they do over and over and again. They won't stop because, again, we are a threat to them. Now, there are other nominees, like we said, who are already under fire. Tulsi Gabbard. We played you those clips from Nikki Haley, Pete Hegseth. There's a police report from California that people are combing over. I hope, though, that President Trump and his cabinet, and I know that they will because they're strong people and they have a way forward and they know what's important. I hope that they find somebody to put in charge of the Department of Justice. I hope they find an attorney general with as much vim and vigor and passion and experience and professionalism and know-how and gumption to root out evil and corruption and lawfare, to overhaul and to take a chainsaw to the Department of Justice and make sure that all of these folks who've been bastardizing it for so long are gone. I hope that he finds somebody new to do that. I'm sure he will. I don't know who it is yet. We're all going to find out together. As for Matt Gaetz, we wish him the best. And maybe one day we'll get him back on the show and we can talk about what exactly happened. Now, one other thing that we should discuss while we're on the topic of President Trump and his cabinet and now this big shakeup that we've just heard is that I believe moving forward, you're going to see President Trump kind of slow down with some of these picks. I believe that moving forward, what we're going to start seeing is we're going to see President Trump start to keep things maybe a little closer to the vest. If you look at, for example, the Washington Post here, they haven't taken Matt Gaetz out yet, by the way. So someone call the Washington Post. They've got to update their tracker. But if you look at this right here, we've still got Treasury, Agriculture, Labor, Housing, and Urban Development. The faster that Donald Trump announces these picks, the longer that people are going to have to really comb through them. The longer people are going to have to really tear them apart or dig up the dirt or make up stuff. So I think you're going to see a slowdown. And again, not a lot of especially with Attorney General, he may wait because the Department of Justice is probably the most corrupt and weaponized of all of them. And if you're Donald Trump, or if I'm Donald Trump at this point, I'm going to be like, okay, here's the deal. I see how you bastards play. I'm not going to tell you till the very last minute. I'm not going to give you any time to prepare. I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold back. I'm not going to nominate another Attorney General until the very last second. And then I'm going to give you as little time as possible to prepare your objections. And I'm going to give you as little time as possible to vet these people and find out any potential problems you may have with them that you're going to hang over their head during a confirmation process. That's what I would do. FBI director, a lot of people want Kash Patel. Forget about it. Don't name the FBI director. Do not make a single high-profile, controversial pick until after the inauguration. FBI director can wait. Christopher Wray knows he's out. Get yourself inaugurated, then fire him, then bring in Kash Patel or whomever else you have. Attorney General, same thing. Yes, there's going to be a confirmation hearing, but you've got to wait until the last possible minute and make sure that all these senators who've already pledged their support. And look, it's easy. Yes, potentially there could have been a deal that's already been made. J.D. Vance could have gone to talk to all of the senators who were on the fence or who were anti. Joni Ernst, for example, Susan Collins, what's her name from Alaska, the Murkowski, all these crazy lunatic, never Trumper, rhinos, all these people. He could have gone and talked to them and said, look, who is it? Who's going to get by? Here's a list of people we want. Who are you going to pick? I hope to God that's not the way it went, but you never know. And our goal, the role now we have is, because I always say this, yes, it was fun to celebrate. It was fun to celebrate the win. It was fun to celebrate the mandate. It was fun to celebrate President Trump picking RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz. And it was fun to think about Matt Gaetz becoming Attorney General of the United States. But all bets are off. And now the gloves have to come off. Celebration time is over. It's back to the battle. We have to go back and fight. And this is why I say this every single day. You got to listen to this show every single day. We've got to come together and figure out who our enemies are. It's not the Democrats anymore. It's still them, but they don't have the power. They're not in control. We are battling the forces of evil within our own party. We are battling the deep state and the Washington elitists who refuse to go. And it's our job now to take them out. Scott Pressler, who is one of the big reasons why Pennsylvania went red. It's one of the big reasons why President Trump is in the position to name these cabinet picks. Scott Pressler went to the Bucks County, Pennsylvania, meeting of the Bucks County, Pennsylvania meeting. I forget what they called. And he went up to these elected officials and he threatened them to their face. Why? Because they're counting illegal ballots. Bucks County was told by the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania, stop counting those ballots, they're illegal. And they came up and said, you know what? People break the law all the time. We're going to count these ballots. We don't care what you say. And they kept counting the ballots. And they're trying to flip Bucks County. And Scott Pressler showed up at this hearing and he threatened them to their face. Listen to this.
We have a commissioner, quote, by Diane Marsiglia, precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country. People violate laws anytime they want. And if I, meaning Diane Marsiglia, violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it. Well, Commissioner, the court already ruled that undated and misdated mail-in ballots could not be counted. You knew that going into the meeting. And I want to congratulate the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This speech I'm doing right now is going to be seen by millions across the country, the Commonwealth, and the world. And I have a message. Congratulations to President-elect Donald J. Trump, the 45th and 47th President of the United States of America. Congratulations to Senator-elect Dave McCormick, and we are not going to allow Democrats to steal this seat from us. Furthermore, congratulations because we defeated Matt Cartwright, giving President Trump an additional seat in Congress. Congratulations to Congressman-elect Rob Bresnahan. Congratulations to Congressman-elect Ryan McKenzie, defeating Democrats Susan Wild in Allentown and Lehigh. And I have a message. Peacefully, we are coming for your seat in 2027. If you don't resign today,
How about it?
I am coming for your seat peacefully. And Harvey, Commissioner Harvey, this goes for you too. You are complicit. Mark Elias and his cronies must be disbarred from practicing law in Pennsylvania, any of his cronies for the misconduct that they did. I want you to know that I am going to spend all of my time in Bucks County for the next 3 years making sure that we take back this county. Thank you to every single patriot that showed up today.
That's a rallying cry right there for the rest of us too. It's not just Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where you got these commissioners who are abusing their power and are breaking the law flagrantly in front of the rest of the world so that they can shift the balance of power. It's everywhere. We're seeing it now. We're seeing it in the Senate. The Senate, where Donald Trump was handed a mandate, and 2026. Look, this midterm election, it's on. It starts right now. It's on like Donkey Kong, to use a Gen X term. Joni Ernst, Iowa. If you're in Iowa, you got 2 years. Joni Ernst is up for re-election. She's got to go. Kentucky, Mitch McConnell. Come on. We need fewer Mitch McConnells and more JD Vances. We need fewer Mitch McConnells and more Rick Scotts. We need fewer Mitch McConnells and more Tommy Tubervilles, who's, by the way, also up for re-election next year in Alabama. But Alabama, I feel like you know what to do. Maine, Susan Collins. Where my maniacs at? If you're a maniac, do not be a maniac and do not send this woman back to the Senate. It is primary time. We now know the line has been drawn in the sand. These are people who have said, I'm not on board with President Trump's agenda. I'm not on board with making America great again. I'm going to thwart the will of the American people. I'm going to go against the electoral victory of massive proportions. I'm going to go against the mandate given by the popular vote. I'm going against all of those things. And I'm going to say, much like Liz Cheney did, that I know better than the voters. I know better than the people. I know better than my constituents. And I know better than President Donald Trump what his agenda should be. And those are people like Joni Ernst, like Mitch McConnell, Bill Cassidy in Louisiana. Louisiana, please, we're done with Bill Cassidy in Louisiana. That guy was a thorn in our side from day one. He rode President Trump's coattails till victory, and then he turned around and stabbed him right in the back with a vote to dismiss him from office. We do not need another 6 years of Bill Cassidy. We do not need any of these people. We have Tom Tillis in North Carolina, Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. I mean, don't even get me started. We know Shelley Moore Capito in West Virginia. These are all the people that we're going to be looking at. These are all the people that we're going to be targeting. All of these folks know that their heads are on the chopping block. And just like Scott Pressler said, peacefully, we are coming for your seat because we have an America First MAGA patriot in the White House and we've got America First MAGA patriots on the ground in the Congress. We do not yet have, even though we have a majority, even though it's growing day by day, we do not yet have an America First MAGA conservative majority in the Senate. We can in 2026. Ron DeSantis has to pick somebody. It won't be Matt Gaetz. It may not be Laura Trump. He's going to pick somebody, and that person hopefully will be more of a MAGA conservative than any of these other senators running in 2026. But Marco Rubio was fairly solid as a vote for President Trump's agenda. It's up to Iowa. It's up to Maine. It's up to Kentucky. And I love Kentucky. Look, if I didn't have kids in high school, I would move to Kentucky for the next 2 years and do what Scott Pressler did and just campaign against Mitch McConnell and also drink bourbon. I may make some trips. Maybe I won't move there, but maybe I'll take some work trips to Kentucky and we'll do rallies and we'll get up there on stage and we'll find a candidate and we'll primary this jackass and then we'll drink some bourbon to celebrate. Maybe we'll do that, but there are serious opportunities here. This Matt Gaetz thing is not the end of Matt Gaetz's political career. It's the beginning of the next battle for liberty, love, and freedom defending patriots. This is the beginning of the next election cycle. It's November 21st. Look, we had 2 weeks. We had 2 good, fun weeks. I hope you enjoyed the celebration because the battle for 2026 begins now. Scott Pressler knows it. He's fighting in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. The rest of us have to fight in our hometowns. I got a I got an idiot on the ethics commission that we've been trying to get rid of for 2 years. Haven't been able to do it. Hopefully he'll retire because he's old as dirt. But we've got changes that have to be made. There are bad seeds that need to be rooted out peacefully. And that's what we're going to be doing. Listen, there was a lot more that I wanted to cover, but I got to wrap it up because we're going to start filming our Kaye's Kids 12 Days of Christmas, and I can't be late for that. There's a brand new Doge caucus in the House of Representatives started by our good friend, Congressman Aaron Bean. We're going to get him on the show to discuss that. Tomorrow, we're going to chat with Kat Kamak, Congresswoman from Florida's 3rd District, and she knows she fell victim to some of these rhinos that are left in the House of Representatives who are more centrist than right leaning, who are less America first and more Congress first. We'll talk to her about that and get her take on some of that. We've got a lot of great stuff that's lined up coming up in the next few weeks, and we are working diligently. We all know what we have to do. I mean, it's clear as a bell now. As soon as Matt Gaetz withdrew his name from contention, we knew what we have. We now know what we have to do. We know that the battle is going to rage on. It rages on every day. It never ends. There are new threats every single day. And that's why every single day at noon Eastern, 11 Central, or whenever you download the podcast or watch this video or whatever it is, that's how we know. That's why we come together and we talk and we discuss and we argue and we debate and we share and we learn and we create a game plan to fight back against every single threat to our country, every single threat to our Constitution, every single threat to ourselves and our posterity, so that we can save the Republic.